Let's see here. All right. Hey, everybody. Black Blockchain Consultants. It's Cherie Warwick here. Thank you so much for coming on the Wednesday interview series. We have to give this series a name. I have no idea what we're going to call it, but every Wednesday we come on and we usually interview someone from the blockchain space, but I was introduced to Kimmoy through a woman named Erica Williams who talks about wealth building, and I've spoken with all of you about her just in passing. And Kimmoy came on, I bought her course because she teaches technical writing and how to become a technical writer. And the blockchain space is going to need technical writers as well. So I asked Kimmoy if she would come on and talk to us as well. So if writing is your forte, whether it's, we interviewed a guy named Trek, who is a content writer for the blockchain space, and he gets paid to do that. Or some of the other types of technical writing that Kimmoy is going to introduce us to. If writing is your forte, then you're in the right place because you'll be able to take your writing skills, as we've already said, and do some blockchain networking. And I'm more than sure there are positions for blockchain technical writers out there. So before we do that, Kimmoy, I just want to let everyone know to mark their calendars for June 12th. June 12th is our blockchain virtual conference. It's going to be an all-day conference. It is going to be 100% virtual. And we have already confirmed Reggie Middleton, who is super huge. We have different people coming on to talk about blockchain jobs and careers that you can get. We have people coming on to talk about the blockchain space, including Gerard Dash from the Government Blockchain Association and Alon Garam, who runs the LA Crypto Week. We have other people as well. I can't remember them all. I apologize for that, but we are going to be dropping names starting on Monday of people who have already confirmed, and we want you to have this on your calendar for June 12th. It's going to be from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. So it's going to be all day, but you can listen to various topics with regards to blockchain. So with that, I'm going to start the official interview. Welcome, Kimmoy.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So do you know what blockchain is? I know you do a lot of work with Google and places like that, but are you familiar with blockchain?
No, I've only heard about it. I mean, I figured it was a technology that was used to create cryptocurrency, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, so if you think about it, I always give the analogy, and this is something that we learned early on, is crypto is like a car and blockchain is the road. So it's the underlying technology that supports everything. And crypto is just one use case, but it is a small percentage of the use cases. So blockchain is all about data and protecting data, securing data. It's the next evolution in data and cybersecurity. For example, Walmart is using blockchain now to look at produce vendors, and if they have an outbreak of salmonella or something like that, they are able to go within seconds and be able to tell where that piece of lettuce came from and be able to track illnesses, and it's going to be used in health, supply chain. Guys, you can tell me, give me other use cases in the chat for Kimmoy here, but it's going to impact a lot of different areas of life in terms of data. So
yeah, data is definitely huge for sure. A lot of, in addition to technical writing, data scientist is a growing career. So blockchain will incorporate those different skill sets. So that's really cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I would love for you to first of all tell people, let's start off with telling people what technical writing is. So they may have never heard of what technical writing is, and they just came in here because Cherie said, hey, you can make money as a blockchain writer. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what technical writing is, give some examples of technical writing, things like that.
Okay. So technical writing is, in essence, layman's terms, and it is all about explaining how to do something for a specific user so that they can either be more informed or complete a specific task. So it is very instructional oriented. It usually guides the user to do something or complete something. So some examples would be your manual that you get for your brand new laptop, or it could also be the instructions that you see on when you fill out a form online for your bank, or when you're booking a flight, for example. It basically lays out what you should do next. And the ultimate goal is so that the user does not have to think, essentially. So the more traditional forms of technical writing is usually like long form, like longer manuals and specifications of how a product works. But in today's world, it has evolved so much because we use a lot more apps and web applications that should be a little bit more intuitive. So the copy or the text is more short form and very to the point. But more experienced technical writers will work behind the scenes of those applications that are typically easy to use on the front end, but on the back end, the people that create the app, for example, developers, they need instructions, or other companies that will want to use that app, they need instructions. So the best example I like to give is the Uber app. In order for it to work properly, they have to incorporate some kind of mapping system. It's probably Google Maps. So the instructions behind the scenes, it's called an API. So how do you connect Google Maps to Uber app so that it works together? Those kind of instructions. So essentially it's instructions.
But it's more than instructions, right? Because I read it was like art.
Oh, I lost your audio there for a second.
Okay, is that, yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, but it can also, outside of instructions, it could be instructions through like articles, blogs that are being written, or.
That's more, that's more of content writing, I would say.
Okay.
Typically, step-by-step instructions is technical writing. That's like the formal role, but like I said, over the years, it has evolved. So if you give someone instructions on an app or a website, it's typically called user experience writing. So there are so many different terminologies to describe the same type of work. But I would say if it's informational, like an article, I wouldn't call it technical writing. People tend to think that technical writing is all about tech, but it's not really. It could be about any product whatsoever. It could be about healthcare. It could be about beauty products, right? It's basically how to do something. Copywriting is typically a sales tone. You're basically trying to convince the user to purchase something. But articles in general, blogs in general are, I would say, content writing. So.
Okay. And I did see in here, they're saying there's a bit of interference. Guys, let me know if there's still some issues with the audio. So Talisha's asking, would you consider an onboarding manual as technical writing?
Yes. Okay. So that would be in HR. Yeah, for sure. So job aids, manuals, specifications, that sort of thing.
Great. Again, let me know if in the chat if the interference is still happening. Oh, they're saying it's on my side only. So I'll ask questions and then I will mute myself. Okay, so now that we've gotten to that, let's take a step back and get a little bit of your background. And, are you some kid who was pulling apart laptops and computers when you were 10 years old, like we hear normal geeks do, or were you a little bit less technical like us?
Let's see. That's a good question. I did not pull apart things, but I loved computer games and I loved video games as a kid. I was probably one of the only girls that played video games with the boys. I was obsessed with Mortal Kombat. um, but I love computer games. My favorite was, I think it was Carmen Sandiego. So, um, but no, I just love being on the computer. I thought it was the coolest thing. And I was not, I loved learning. I was a good student. I wouldn't say that I was great at math or anything like that compared to other engineers, but I liked it. So I was interested enough, and my teacher saw that I was interested enough and I liked it. I had to work really hard at it. So like it wasn't a natural thing for me. But because of my math teacher, she was the one that said, you should study engineering. And that's all I needed to hear as a teenager. I was like, okay, cool, engineering, I'll do that. And that was my degree. But I do want to say that an engineering degree is not a requirement for technical writing. It certainly helps. It depends on the field that you end up in for your work. But I feel people who have the ability to understand complex subjects and break it down so that it's easy to understand, like that particular skill set is the most important skill set for a technical writer. So if, a lot of engineers aren't really good at writing, I mean, no shade. But if you're just able to explain how to do something and it's a bit of art and science, then that is something you should consider. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right. So, so tell us a little bit then about one of the things that Erica always talks about is the process of breaking into the field. Let's say that somebody is thinking about it, they want to. So for example, my background is a business plan writer. So I write the instructions for people basically to raise money. From investors, for example, or grant writing as well is something else that I've done in the past. So I was looking at this, and I did buy your course, by the way. When I was looking at this, I was looking at it as a natural progression of my writing career. So I'm very interested in terms of people knowing, okay, you think that this is something that may be viable for you. What are some of the steps or even some of the requirements that you think people should have in order to know if this is something they should consider?
Okay. So for me, technical writing didn't even come into the picture until 2011. I didn't even know this was a career. But one thing, when I was working as an engineer, for me, the way my brain works is I like processes. I like things organized for the most part. So it's like we need to have stuff documented. That was the ultimate goal. So even when I was testing satellites and stuff, I'm like, somehow it needs to be documented because I don't want you coming and asking me 6 months later how to do something when you could have just looked at a document, right? That's just how I am. So if you're that type of person or you're very process oriented, chances are you did it on your own without the title of a technical writer or without someone telling you to do it. I'm sure whatever job you're working at, there's some document that is outdated, or there's some guy who's been there for 20, 30 years. He's the only one that knows how to operate a legacy system. So you have to go and interview him and figure out how things work, right? So there are examples where technical writing is needed in your everyday work life. So if you feel compelled to actually document it somewhere, write it down somewhere, heck, even create a video or audio about how to do something, then that is a good starting point. Like, I don't want people to think that they have to go out there and pitch to clients and try to do all this crazy stuff to break into tech. Like, just look around your everyday work life and see what are some procedures that are outdated that maybe if I just update it and tweak it a little bit, it will save the team a couple hours a week, or it will save the company a few dollars, or it will just make everybody else's life less stressful, or people will stop calling you asking you the same questions, right? So those kind of everyday things you can look for. And I always say, particularly in tech, you have to have proof of interest and proof of skills. So the best way to do that is through a portfolio. So if you're, I don't know if there's anyone in here who's a programmer, you probably had to, I don't know, program some kind of app or some kind of game or whatever you do. Typically, that will help you get the job to become a programmer or a developer. The same goes for technical writing. You want to have like a portfolio that shows that you wrote some instructions down and you helped improve something, or you help the user to do something. So if you have those pieces together, that's a really good start to your portfolio, and that will help you break into technical writing a lot easier. So, and then there's also, and then my other tip that I like to give people is, so you guys probably love blockchain technology and you could talk about it for days on end. You probably find articles about what's happening in blockchain and you share it with your friends or you share it with the group. So that kind of stuff is also part of your professional brand, right? So when I was looking for a job in technical writing, I talked about it all the time on LinkedIn. So I would come up with crazy projects and be like, oh, if Zipcar would improve this process, it would be a lot easier. And I compared, I think Google and Apple Pay and Google Pay together, something I did. But anyways, it was just something fun for me to do and share on LinkedIn. And the people, right, the recruiters that are looking for technical writers can actually see that proof of interest that, oh, she's into technical writing. She did an article about this. She did an interview about it. She did a blog post about it. So now they're coming to me with job opportunities. So that's kind of my secret formula for anyone that wants to break into any job, but especially technical writing, is to have that proof of skills and proof of interest somehow on the internet, and LinkedIn is a great place to start, or you could do your own website if you want to go to that level. But yeah, so that's kind of like what I encourage people to do, regardless of what field they're in, is to just talk about, it's okay to talk about work, especially if you like it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So you passed on a couple of really good gems. The first one is in regards to, the interviewing somebody that may have all this data in their head. So we're looking at all these blockchain platforms right now, and I don't think Eric Spence is on tonight, but he and Talisha have been talking to these various blockchain platforms. And one of the things that has come up consistently is that they don't have any documentation, any processes. And I haven't said this with them before, but I'm sure all of us are thinking about it. How do we get to mass adoption of blockchain without this documentation being written? That's going to be vital. And these companies are eventually going to be hungry for people who can write down these processes and make sure that people know how to download their platforms, use them appropriately, etc. Otherwise, mass adoption isn't going to happen. The other thing I really liked was, I didn't even think about this, is using LinkedIn to showcase your knowledge. So let's say that you want to be the supply chain expert within blockchain. Well, having a LinkedIn, even if you did it once a week, adding a new article once a week about blockchain and and supply chain and a platform that's using it or a company that's using it, et cetera, that would really add to your portfolio. And I went to the Black is Tech event this weekend, and I had my business cards that said I was a technical writer, and all of them asked me, okay, we'll need to see your writing samples. So Kimmoy teaches that in her class, and she was right. I laughed when I heard them say it. So I said, okay, well, I'm gonna have to come up with some writing samples here and put them on a website so that people can really see those writing samples, because they did ask, all of them.
And you could publish those on LinkedIn too. And the reason why I tell people to create samples is because there are some companies, I mean, it doesn't happen often, but there are some companies, particularly startup companies, and I've even seen larger companies, will try to get you to write content for free. So you never want to do that, right? Especially if you're in an interviewing phase, because that's just that's a scam, basically. But on your own, right? Because this is something that you want to do and you're interested in, create your own samples. And when you're interviewing them, your samples actually drive the conversation in your interview. So now this has happened to me every single time. So you're like, can we see some of your samples? Or maybe they have already seen a sample and they reach out to me. So I'm talking about why I wrote it, who I wrote it for, what was my thought process behind the content. So now it's more of a conversation and it doesn't feel like a interrogation for the interview, right? And they can't ask me to create a whole manual for them, because I'm not going to do that. I'd be like, I have these portfolio samples. This is a good representation of my work, use that, basically. I mean, you want to say it in a more finesse way, but it's kind of like, no, I'm not doing any work for free. You can evaluate my skills based on X, Y, Z, and we can go from there. So yeah, that's probably the main reason why I encourage people to create their own samples. There's no need to go out and create or respond to companies that want you to create free content for them specifically, unless this is something that you want to have in your own portfolio. Like maybe, I don't know, if Google reached out to you and said, hey, can you create, an instructional article about how to use blockchain or whatever, you have to be able to control that content. Like they can't say, don't publish it anywhere else, or it's only exclusive to their site or anything like that. It's something that you should be able to share freely, publish freely, etc. So, yeah.
So we do have a question from Eugenia. How can we provide writing samples if we are bound by an NDA? Should we create our own materials?
Right, you create your own materials. So you never want to share confidential information or personal identifiable information. So like I said, I picked some of my favorite apps or things that I used every day as part of my samples. So you'll see the Zipcar I was talking about earlier, the Uber and Google Maps. I have that as part of my samples. And I've even made up stuff. Like it doesn't even have to be real, right? I made up my own version of Google Maps. Back then, they didn't have a mute feature on Google Maps, so I kind of made that thing up as part of my sample. What else? Now, there were situations where, so I was a contractor for the Postal Service, and I created a report on how to, it was basically an instructions on how to generate a specific report. So what I did was I only took pieces of that and kind of blocked out any confidential information. So they only got to see like maybe 3 pages of it or so, but that was enough to show that I can actually write instructions, but I blocked out the confidential stuff. So you can do that, but to be safe, you can make up your own stuff. You could choose some of your favorite apps. I mean, believe you me, a lot of these companies did not have great instructional content. So if there's something that you're frustrated with using and you wish it would you wished it would make it easier, you could make up your own features and write about it and use that as part of your portfolio.
Yeah, when we first got started, I'm sure many of the people here will remember this. We did those before and afters to the white papers. And this is the same thing that I think Kimmoy is suggesting, where you take something that is not very well written, people can't really understand it, can't follow it, improve it, and you could do a before and after. And you
Yes.
post it on LinkedIn and say, this is why I made these specific changes. And that could be
Absolutely.
a great sample for you to have. And it could be of, some up and coming
Yeah.
as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be Amazon or
Right, exactly.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. It could be anything. I mean, just think about all the different things that you do every day when you open an account for anything. If you open an account for anything, there's almost always something that's confusing. So if it's a bank account or profile for something, so many different opportunities. It's as creative as you can be.
Yeah, so Eugenia also asked one of the questions that I had on here, and of course I already know this answer. She wants to know how much you can get paid. What kind of salary?
So, I'll keep it 100 with you guys. So I make 6 figures. I did not start out making 6 figures. But it depends. Of course, it depends, and I hate saying it depends. But here's what it depends on, though. It depends on how well you sell yourself, right? That's just the bottom line. I think the lowest salary I've seen is probably $60K. But if you have years of experience, even if it's not technical writing, right? This is another thing that I teach in my course is, I think one of my students, she was an accountant, I believe. And it's just basically, how do you translate accounting skills? There's something you did where you wrote some instructions down. How do you translate that to technical writing skills so that it shows up as part of your experience? So it's really about how you sell your skills. I like money, okay? And I don't like taking pay cuts. So I am going to do everything to get the pay that I want to get paid. So that's why I kind of have this arsenal behind me where I'm like, look, I have a portfolio. You can look at my LinkedIn profile. You can look at my resume. You can look, like I make sure I have this package thing that there's no doubt that you're going to get your money's worth when you hire me. So I'm like, this is what I'm bringing to the table kind of thing. So I feel like the salary is more about your ability to sell your skills, if that makes sense. But
yeah, it makes absolute sense. And I agree with that as well. As somebody who's been in business for many years, business plans can be anywhere from $1,000 to $50,000, and a lot of it really does depend on the strength of the salesperson. So so you've definitely seen that. The other thing you haven't told people is you work remote as well. You work from home. So, well, I don't know from home, but I know you work remote.
Right. Yeah. So it depends on the company. I just want to say that when I was with Google, I never even wanted to work remote because it was fantastic working on site, on campus. So that I just want to say is it's very competitive to find a well-paying technical writing role that's remote. I just want to set that premise out there because, again, it depends on how you sell yourself. And number two, a lot of the companies that are hiring technical writers, hopefully I don't offend anyone, right? But freelance writers are here. Technical writers are up here. Okay? If you sell yourself like a freelance writer, then you're going to have a really hard time. So technical writers, typically they're sticking with a particular application or product that you're trying to help probably thousands of users use this particular product. So they want you there for months. Like, I think the shortest contract I've seen is like maybe 6 months, sometimes 3 months. So this is not like a not hourly, but it's not like, I'll only do it for 5 hours and then I'm done. Like, it's not typically like that. There are projects like that, but that's not the one I go after because I like having a steady income. But, depending on your personality and what your financial needs are. But I teach my students to go after contracts, right? Because freelancing in the world today, anybody could go on Upwork, and then you're going to be competing based on price, right? And it's a lot of, how do you describe it? It's like you are going in there fishing for the job versus the strategy that I teach is the recruiters are coming to you with the job. So it's a little bit different. So yeah. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say about that. Hopefully I answered the question.
Yeah, you did. And,
Okay.
Again, it is about being a specialist as well. So if you're a blockchain for supply chain specialist or a blockchain for a healthcare specialist and really pushing that out there, pushing that narrative out there. And Kimmoy, you don't know this. I tell my people all the time, it's not what you know and it's not who you know, it's who knows you, right?
Right.
Everybody said who knows you in virtual unison. So how do you get people to know you? You have very strong LinkedIn profiles, you're networking at specific industry events, you're connecting with the right people, and you're really putting yourself out there, so that people can find you, because you want people to say, so the best opportunities I've gotten is just because people know me and they call me or they email me. And they're not even thinking about putting, we need business plans on Fiverr. Like that is not even.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And then you're able to command the types of salaries that Kimmoy is talking about. And now you specifically go after contracts, but if people want to be employees, so your contracts are like, what, 6 months, a year? I know sometimes you said they want to keep you longer than that.
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So I've been an employee, I've been an employee, been a contractor, and I'm actually back to being an employee. There's a personal reason for that, because I'm trying to get a loan because I'm trying to buy a house. So they typically like W-2s than 1099s for some reason, which is annoying. But the company that I was a contractor for, they were happy to convert me to an employee, so it worked out. But with Google, I was actually in Argentina because I love traveling, and I took a whole year off to travel. And they actually hired me for a 3-month contract, but I ended up staying there for more than a year. So, in my head at that point, I was like, all right, I'm going to work for 3 months and then I'm going to go back to South America, right? That was my plan. But they kept extending the contract. So I did good work. I liked working there, so it worked out. But you can be an employee if that's what you want to do. You can do contracts if that's what you want to do. But if you're going to do freelance, please put as much effort into selling your skills. Because I don't want anyone coming back to me and saying, I got a technical writing role for $20 an hour. Like, please don't. Don't do that. And you're only working like 5 hours. Don't do that. So
yeah. So what is the minimum that people should expect? And I know that it's different for every person, but any kind of range that you want to give. I know you gave Erica's people a range, so.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the bare minimum is 40.
Yeah.
Again, it depends on the subject matter. It depends on the company. Like I said, these companies are expecting to pay you more, right? I sent out a salary report for different content writing roles. So that the bare minimum, like I said, is around 60. Average is about between 80 or so, depending on the city. And then, of course, you have six-figure earners. So my whole point is, if you do freelance, do it amazingly well.
And sell yourself. Well, if you're doing freelance, you're really a business owner. And if you're a business owner, like I charge $65 an hour for me to do anything with regards to writing, and people will pay it. So the other thing is, Kimmoy mentioned, being a contractor. Within the blockchain space, we had an internal discussion, if you're on Flock, a couple of days ago about consensus. And, they're raising 200 million. And if they can't raise 200 million, they've already laid off 13% of their employees. And, the speculation is they may have to lay off more, et cetera. My suggestion to people is, if you want to be an employee or you want to be a long-term contractor, to either get with a company that's very well financed and they run a pretty tight ship with their expenses, because some of these executives will get tens of millions of dollars and think it's time for floor seats at the Lakers game. I'm just warning people. So either you find a group of people that run a tight fiscal ship, or you go to a company like Deloitte or Accenture or one of these big companies and say, I will be a technical writer for the blockchain projects that you bring in the door. And that way, especially if you've got kids to feed and a mortgage, you want to make sure that you are going to be conservative with the blockchain projects you're taking on if you're going to go that route. So, you guys can let me know what you think about that, but at least that's how I would do it.
Yeah.
So Talisha asked, what are your thoughts about using Haro, which is Help a Reporter Out? Do you use that?
Oh man, that still exists.
Yeah, it does.
I used that way back in the day when I was trying to get, I was blogging about some other stuff. To use that in terms of what would you use Haro for today? I'm not sure. To get jobs, you mean, or?
Well, probably publicity.
Oh, okay. Sure. If you want to, with Haro though, they send out the subject, right? And then you respond. So if they have opportunities for you to talk about blockchain technology or whatever, absolutely. The more that's written up about you, because remember, recruiters, employers, they will Google you. So if those articles pop up with you talking about blockchain or whatever it is that you want to be known for show up, then awesome, go ahead. Yeah, definitely do that.
Great. Well, what I'd like to do is get you to talk a little bit about your course. I will tell everybody here, I do own it, and it's very cost friendly. And it's quite good. I haven't done my writing samples yet, but I have gone through the videos. So I'll be honest with regards to that. But why don't you just tell people if they're interested in delving a little bit more into your course?
Yeah, okay, so it's on my website, keepingupwithkimmoy.com. And no, I'm not trying to keep up with the Joneses or the Kardashians. I'm trying to keep up with myself. But the course is essentially what I wish I had when I was breaking into technical writing. So I learned what technical writing is. I learned about the different types of documentation. But as far as getting a technical writing job, it didn't go that far. But these were the steps that I took to help me get into technical writing. So the first module, basically, you start writing right away. I don't want you to waste any time. I'm not going to give you a whole bunch of fluff. I walk you through the 5-step process to creating any form of technical content. So you learn about that. And then we go right into a couple different exercises that you can use to begin creating your portfolio pieces. And that information you could take it as far as you want to, as far as your imagination goes, or if you're not into the topics that I cover, then you could, write about whatever it is that you want to write about. But the 5-step process is essentially there in module 1. Then once we get the portfolio out of the way, then I walk you through how to actually basically put together your professional brand, so to speak. So I walk you through like the job descriptions, how to find the jobs, how to update your resume, how to update your LinkedIn. So I believe that's modules 2 and 3. And then module 4, I think, I can't remember, but there's so much different content in there. But I also want you to get familiar with how the team works, so the type of people that you'll be working with as a technical writer. So I don't want you to like feel incompetent when you're in an interview, when they ask you a question like, oh, so when the product manager does blah, 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 you don't want to be like, well, who's the product manager? Or what do they do? Like, I give you some ideas on how you as a technical writer work with those specific roles. And I also, so with every technical writing role I've gotten, I had to take a test. So I actually walk you through, I know for sure it was Airbnb's test, and I give you the answers for that. And then I also walk you through, I think it's Facebook. It might be Facebook or Google. I can't remember if I put both or just one of those in there. But you get to see what the test is like and how I would answer it. So all of that is in there. I try to make it as fun and interactive, and the videos are short. The assignments are fairly easy, so that you actually walk away with a portfolio, updated resume, and you feel more confident to apply for these jobs. So that's what the course is designed to do. It's pretty affordable. And I made it affordable because I don't want anyone to feel like they have to spend thousands of dollars just to get into a career. I mean, you're going to earn that money back within the first hour of working, probably. So it's only $197. But yeah, my goal is basically to have more people that look like us in there. It's a great way to get into tech, get to learn about so many different applications behind the scenes, or even, front end applications. It's a cool industry. It pays well. Like some days I pinch myself, like I can't believe I get paid to do this. So yeah, hopefully I will see some of you guys in there.
Yes. Well, like I told everybody, I'm definitely in there and I'm expanding my skill set. So, I don't know if this is possible, but I honestly was thinking about it for just business purposes as well, being able to have a whole bunch of technical writers working under one of our companies. So one of our companies is...
Oh, that would be amazing. We should definitely talk about that.
Okay, so we can talk about it one-on-one, but we have a company called BCI under our umbrella. And and one of the things that I wanted to do, so one of the things we do is white papers. And I thought doing technical writing for some of these platforms would be another skill set that we would add. So having, 10, 12, and over time, maybe even 100 people that are technical writers just for the blockchain industry. And
that would be amazing. I have definitely thought about opening up my own agency. I have the structure in place.
Mm-hmm.
I so many jobs come to me and I'm like, I can't do it. I wish I had, a team that I could pass along job opportunity to. So yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, because there are going to be people that are going to be looking for these types of opportunities. And it could obviously be beyond blockchain too. It could be cybersecurity or other types of platforms. But yeah, people
so many opportunities.
Mm-hmm. So you and I will definitely talk about that offline, but and then I'll bring in a couple of other people as well if they want to come in on the conversation. to talk about that. But that, honestly, I was thinking in terms of government for us, because I'm in the DC area as well. And
Oh, cool.
yeah, and then so government, both state, local, and federal, as well as, you know, some of the companies out here that would want to bring someone on for 3 months or 6 months, and they want to go to an agency like us, but also know that there would be quality assurance, because maybe more than one person is touching that document. You know,
I mean, QA is actually another. It's not a field, but it's another part of technical writing, because you have to write test plans. So I've had that role as well, where you're basically trying to break an application. So you write test cases on how to actually use the application and put in some wrong information and see how the application responds and so forth. So that's another, if anyone has done QA for their job, that will be a good sample too for technical writing.
Yeah, I did QA once. It was a long time ago for an accounting software that this company I was working at was bringing on. So yeah, I mean, there are just so many opportunities out there. It's just a matter of us getting organized, figuring out what we want to do, and letting the world know that this is our skill set. So
yeah.
So with that, we are 10 minutes before the hour. So we want to thank you, Kimmoy, for coming on, talking with us tonight. It is keepingupwithkimmoy.com. I put it in the chat for everybody, and I'll see everyone in Flock. If this is something that interests you, definitely take a look at it. Her course is only $197, so I highly suggest it, even if you just want to take a look at it, because Kimmoy doesn't teach, she teaches technical writing, but the majority of the class is how to get a job, basically.
Yes.
Or what I consider how to get contracts. Like, this is how you position yourself to get money. And I really, really like that aspect of it. So thank you so much, Kimmoy. You and I will definitely talk offline about the agency. And, you know, everybody, thank you so much. Don't forget, our virtual conference is going to be on June 12th from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. So make sure you mark your calendars for that. That's a Wednesday. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.